Hello there, it's Jay here from Jay's Vintage Junk, and well, it's a cold, wet and miserable day outside, so I've come into the workshop. This is my little engineering style workshop rather than my electronics workshop. Basically, what I keep fancying having a go at a bit of metalworking. Basically, I don't know if anyone else on here watches it, but I rather like Maximus Iron Thumper's YouTube channel. He's a proper blacksmith and does a lot of interesting work with metal, as well as old Land Rovers and various other bits and bats. He lives totally off grid. Very, very interesting channel if you're into that kind of thing. And I have played with a bit of metalworking in the past. A friend quite a number of years ago had a small forge, and I played about a little bit with that back in the past. And I fancy having a go this when the weather gets a little bit better, perhaps making something. The problem is I haven't got any equipment. Well, when I say I haven't got any equipment, I've got one piece of equipment, and that's this. Ooh, and it's heavy. And it is, that's a piece of old railway track, and I've been told if you haven't got a proper anvil, a piece of old railway track like that is about as good as you can get as a substitute for a proper anvil. And I've got some other smaller pieces of I-beam and stuff that I've been saving up over time, which again are quite handy for doing bits of metal forming on. So like I said, I've been planning to do something like this for a while. But what I need is a small forge, something that I can get metal up to a really nice hot temperature in. Now I can heat metal up to cherry red in my living room fire. But it's not very convenient getting it all set up in the living room. Obviously I can't hammer out metal in the living room, so that's not really very practical for using for forging metal. So like I said, what I want is a small, a little forge. So I'm going to have a go at building my own. I've had a look at a fair few YouTube videos of people that have made their own small forges. And what I'm doing is roughly based around what other people have done. Pretty much like that. I'm going to use all scrap. Everything that I'm using on this is just junk. It's bits of offcuts, it's parts left over from other projects, it's literally bits of junk. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get you down on the bench here, we'll get a piece of paper out and I'll scribble out basically what I'm planning to do. So back in a sec. Okay, I've got my my scribble book here. This is where various ideas, you know, projects, initial scribblings for designs and stuff all basically go down in here. Right, so what do we need? Basically, here's my idea. What we need is some form of container. Needs to have a hole in the bottom, small hole in the bottom, some form of stand for it to stand on, like that. Now that can be filled full of coals, so we can put charcoal, coal, whatever we want in there. So that's the bowl that contains the fire. So that, like I said, that is full of coals in there. We'll come off the bottom. Bit of an elbow, come out, and then we'll have a blower motor out here with some form of speed control on it, so we can set the speed of the motor so we're not going absolutely ridiculous speed wise. So basically that's going to be the idea. I've got a few various different blower motors. I've got one out of an old gas boiler. I've got one that was designed for inflating like lilos and things like that. I think I've got a couple from cars that have, you know, like the fan blower motor out of cars. I've got all sorts we can try for a blower motor there, and again the speed controller is no issue. We can knock something up or just get something off the shelf. What we're going to concentrate on this video, like I say, I'm planning on doing this on in a couple of parts. It's something I'm going to work on, you know, in time. It's not something I'm planning to do immediately. So the weather's not really up for doing masses of things outside. So what I thought I'd concentrate on is building basically that. Building the thing that's actually going to take the coals with its stand and everything. And what I've got, what I think I'm planning to use, few things I've gathered up, you know, over time really. For the legs, I've got a load of these. If you've been watching my previous videos, you know I hurt my hand working on someone's gates. Well, these are what I was removing. One of the things I was doing to the gates is taking these off. Actually, my hand's not bad now. My thumb there is really healed very, very nicely. A little bit flat at the top there, but it's healed incredibly nicely. I've got a bit of a, well, we can make that out on that finger there, but I've got a bit of a nasty scar there. It's healing up nicely, but that's a bit nasty, and there's no feeling in it. But my thumbs come together really, really nicely. And actually, just to show you, that's what did the damage. That's the disc that actually blew on me and shredded my gloves, and like I said, went into my 2 fingers. This is why you've got to be so careful with angle grinders. So I was just using it, and the disc was like that. If I hadn't had the guard on, it would have done a lot more damage to my hand. Like I say, if I hadn't had the gloves on and hadn't had the guard on, I may have lost a couple of fingers. Like I said, I was incredibly lucky with that. But yeah, from doing that job, like I say, I've ended up with loads and loads and loads of these scrolls. Now I've got a plan for a few of them for another project I'm working on. But I've got, in fact, those are the ones I think I'd selected out for the for my other project, so I'll put them to one side for now. But I do have, put them out there, some more scrolls from the same size that I've got for yet another project I'm going to work on. So I'll get them out of the way for now. But we still have a big box of metal scrolls. I don't like wasting anything. If I can find another use for it, I do tend to save it. So we've got, some of these are a little bit bent, obviously, because I did have to massage them off some gates with a large hammer. But they will straighten up good enough for what we're doing. There's another one. That's a slightly different one. Ah, there's another one. So, we've got 4 legs there. Move them out of the way. And what I'm planning to use for the bowl section there is that. Now that's the top of an old propane cylinder. I repurposed the bottom of the propane cylinder many years ago, and this has been, I think it was full of soil. I think I had some plants in it at one point, but this should make perfect for the bowl to take the coals in. What I'll have to do with it basically is I'll have to grind through that weld there, grind through that weld there, and grind through that weld there like that. Remove that section which we don't need, and like I said, that will leave me with the bowl section that I actually want. I have seen this done. People have used a car brake drum. The problem with using car brake drums is that's generally speaking cast iron. You can weld cast iron, you can weld mild steel to cast iron, but it's a very involved process. You have to bring the cast iron up to a certain temperature, weld it, and then you have to very slowly allow it to cool. You can't just let it cool down at normal temperature, because the two metals basically will cool at a different rate, they will expand at a different rate, and the weld will crack. This is mild steel. This is mild steel. Everything else we're going to use is mild steel, so we can weld it together a lot better than, like I say, if I was using an old car brake drum for this. It means that this won't last as long, obviously, because it's nowhere near as thick, but for the amount I'm going to use this, like I said, this is just an experiment. This is just me playing about, really, for a bit of backyard foraging, backyard blacksmithing. So, like I said, if it lasts a few times and I decide it's good, I could make a better one. Like I said, we'll see how long it lasts. It may not work properly at all, we just don't know yet. Anyway, what I'll do is I'm going to get on and I'm going to basically whip that off there. We'll clean a bit of paint off them. We're probably going to make a collar for the centre. I've got some more scrap that I can cut a ring out of to basically join all this stuff up together. So join me basically once I've got all the bits prepped up, and we'll actually have a look at sticking this thing together. So back in a sec. Okay, we're back, and literally all I've done is I took the grinder with a grinding wheel on it like that, and I just went round the two welds there, ground through the welds, give it with the hammer like that, broke the welds free. Like I said, that we don't need. That can go into my scrap metal pile for further use for something else. So generally speaking, very rarely throw any metalwork away, because I can always reuse it for another purpose, especially like bends, curves like that. They can save you a lot of time when you're making stuff. Literally all I've done then was I just took the grinding disc and I just took the welds, what was left of the welds basically just off, and ground all the way around where I'm actually going to be welding. I took the scrolls that we're going to use, and I roughly got 4 scrolls that are basically about the same straightness, and straightened them up. So as you can see, they're reasonable. Like I said, they're not perfect, but they don't need to be for this. And obviously where we're going to weld on them, I took all the paint off. I've not gone mad with them, I don't need to. And essentially it's going to be a case of welding one on there, welding one to match it on that side like that, weld one there, weld one there, and then just adjust them out so they actually work. So I'm not going to go really super accurate on this. It's just a bit of fun. It's just something I want to fiddle about with and play with, and see whether we can get it to actually work. So I'm just going to eyeball everything. Put some rough marks where the legs are going to go. So these are all at 90 degrees to one another or thereabouts. So this is a really rough, entirely made from scrap thing. I'm just having a bit of fun really. Right, so if we mark from the centre hole there down, let's say 4 inches. So that's basically where we're going to weld to. Go down from there 4 inches, about there, and down there 4 inch. And thinking about it, you could make anything like this. You can make a little barbecue, exactly the same kind of principle, or a planter for putting plants in. Whatever you want really, because I've got to come up with some uses for all these scrolls I've got, because I've got about 20 of the things. I've got a few things I'm already planning on making. Like I said, there's going to be something else I'll be filming reasonably soon. But I'm waiting for some CO2 to come in for that, because it's something I want a bit better than this. I mean, this I suppose we could stick together with the arc welder and it'd be nice and solid. The metal's thick enough. But I am running out of thin electrodes for the arc welder. So we'll have to, we'll get the old gasless MIG in. But it's not a particularly good welder, this. It's very, very cheap. It'll only run with the gasless wire. You can't actually put a gas bottle on it, although that is something I am planning for the future, is to actually make this gasless welder so it can actually take a CO2 bottle. Because it would be very handy to have a very small welder to take the odd place. Right, so we've got that. We've got everything we need. I mean, it does have its advantages, like the fact I said you don't need gas, you just turn up and weld. But the welds don't look nice. They're nowhere near as strong. But it will do what we want, really. Right, let me put my welding hat on. Oop. What I've done on one of these, I've actually ground off a bit of the paint there, if you can see. Simple fact being, once I've got this, I can connect my ground strap to that, like that. Get a good solid ground on there. Well, as solid as you can with this crappy ground strap. We can put that in place like that, or however we decide to have them. I think like that looks good, doesn't it? Then we can weld this one in place, and then the other ones will be a lot easier because we've got a permanent ground. Once this is actually stuck in place, we're not going to have any more problems. Right, I'm going to weld this in and then we'll carry on. In fact, where's my... there they are. Just bear with me a second and I'll stick a glove on this hand. This is really the one you want to protect, the one that you're holding the piece with. But I will put a glove on the other hand, purely just to protect my hand from splatter from the welder. One of these should do. Okie dokie. I'll move my book so it doesn't catch fire. Right, let's get where we should be. I think we said we want that about there, don't we? That'll look nice. Basically we'll weld the first one on and then we can eyeball the rest of them to get them somewhere similar. Let that cool down a sec. That'll hold it in place for now. I've literally just put a little tack weld on there just to hold it. Spin that round and we'll put a weld on the other side. Come on. There we go. A bit more of that. Right, that should hold that. And we'll spin it round and we'll fill in that weld there. Okay, there we go, that's the first one on. That should be nice and solid. We'll spin it round. Make sure that's a nice, because basically we've got a good connection there. Now we can concentrate more on getting this set right, so it's going to look the same. But it doesn't have to be perfect. We're not intending for perfect on this. I just want it roughly in line, and we can bend the legs to get them pretty much where we want them. Let's get a weld on there now. That's not too bad. We'll go around the other side and weld the other side in. And make sure we've got a good ground. I mean, really, your ground's your key when you're welding stuff like this. Right. Okay, that should hold it, nice and solid that. And we'll turn it round again, we'll have the next one. Just hold that in place where we want it. Okay. We'll go around this side and weld in the other side now. Be a good solid weld that. Okay, last one. Now I was considering fitting, like I said, something in the middle to strengthen this, but I don't know whether it's actually going to need it. We'll see once we get this last one on and we can actually have a proper look. But so far that's not looking bad. Come on. There we go. I didn't quite get the tack the first time. Let's have a look at that. That's not too bad. That actual scroll's a little bit bent, but I'm not worried about that. We can always tweak it when it's fully welded up. Alright. I suppose for this kind of welding, these welders aren't too bad. It's just anything more fine than this they're terrible for. I mean, this is like 1/8 inch steel. It's quite substantial, really. We'll just go back over all the other welds, just see if any of them need perhaps a little bit more on them, like that one there. Okay, I'm reasonably happy with that. Switch the welder off and take my welding hat off. Now bear in mind this is going to be red hot. Well, these bits shouldn't be. We'll flip it over and we'll see how well it stands. Okay, it's going to need a little bit of bending. A bit more, perhaps on that leg there. There we go. Perhaps a touch more. There we go. Zoom you out a little bit so you can see what we've built. In fact, I'll have to open the door because it's getting a little bit smoky in here. Unfortunately, it's only very, very small in this workshop. Ooh, let me get you zoomed out. Oops. Sorry about that, folks. I caught the camera as I was doing that. So basically, yeah, there we go. That is going to be the start of my little. In fact, it is well strong enough, well sturdy enough on these legs. So that is basically the start of my little forge. Like I said, there'll be basically an air supply going up a pipe there. We'll have that full of charcoal, then we can get a nice blast temperature there, and we can actually have a go at doing a little bit of blacksmithing and see if this thing's actually going to work. If it doesn't work, it'll make a nice barbecue or a nice planter or something like that. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for now. Like I said, it was just a quickie this. Like I said, I was bored. It's absolutely peeing it down, so I can't do anything in the garden. And I fancied having a go at making something. And I've got all these scrolls to do something with, so I thought, why not? Actually, I hope you enjoyed that little video, something a little bit different to what I normally do. So, thanks for watching, and goodbye.